It's quite obvious to those who know the school that if you're looking for numbers and data, making data-driven decisions, that we have demonstrated a very high success. We did not lose a single construction area for the school. We had a few isolations and managed them. Bottom line is, I feel like, well, I'm not going to rest on the laurels here. I'm not going to say, oh, well, because we did so well, we're somehow great. But we have demonstrated the ability to manage and mitigate risk when it comes to COVID. We had zero spread, not a single case that was traced back to the school through the entire school year. So, in making this plan, I look back, and I'm getting kind of long too. I look back to my own childhood, and I remember things like the mumps, and I remember having mumps, and I remember kids dying of the mumps, and I remember how we had a time where people were kind of responding to it, nothing like this. And I remember in the 80s, when you had, if you were in high school in the 80s, it was AIDS. It was AIDS scare. Everything was about AIDS. And the only reason I'm saying this now is because we have no AIDS policy anymore. We have no mumps policy or rules anymore. What we have is a communicable disease policy that we've had for decades and continue to refine. So our current plan is based upon and is a reflection of our current policy, period. So in the plan that I tried to make public and I put out, I hope that some of you had a chance to look it over, when it asks for what are you doing about X, I refer to the policy we already have, and it covers it. I didn't write special plans just for COVID. You asked me about isolation. We already have a policy that says, yeah, you isolate a kid that's sick. We do the same thing with measles or any other disease. So what it comes down to is there's only a few things that the state says we have to do. Quite frankly, all of them but one are we already have the policy. You would never have to say anything. And I find it, frankly, I hope I don't get scolded by the board for saying it, but I find it rather condescending that a state government agency would tell the school how to handle something that we've already had in policy and already been doing for decades. So what we're faced with now is, and for those that know me, know that whenever I get a mandate from above, whether it's state, county, or anywhere else, I have my two favorite words. Anybody tell me what those are? Or what? There's always a choice in everything that you do, or what. So you tell me we have to do something, okay? And if we don't, what's the option? There's always a choice and always an option. A year ago, I sat here and I said, or what about COVID? And I gave that same kind of spiel about or what. And I felt confident, and we obviously made the right choice. And we started the school year. We ended up not being in any kind of violation with the state, but we made that statement at that time that we were ready to go and say, yep, we're gonna run school. Because what was the or what at that time? You're gonna have to report it in your Division 22 report. Okay. I'll put in a piece of paper, report to the state, we weren't compliant. But we're gonna get compliant sometime. There, report back. That isn't the case this year. So the case this year is you have the threat of loss of licensure for educators. You have $500 a day for every violation. You have, it's pretty heavy-handed. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on. So when it comes right down to it, for those that have kids in school last year, we had a mask mandate throughout the entire year. It faded. By the end of the year, you didn't see any masks at graduation, quite frankly. But during the year, or most of the year, and I would say even in this year, the plan is, looks like last year. For masks. There are no other mandates, because if you notice within the planning and the protocols that came out of the state, what we're supposed to be doing, we already do that. I'm supposed to have 3 feet separation. I have that from Chris right now. We already have those kinds of things. Those are mandates, by the way, not mandates. So I studied all of the mitigating factors, and I put together a plan. I believe that we need to focus on education, instructing our children, and it's obvious to everyone. I don't think there's anyone going to argue with this, that masks, whether they work or not, is irrelevant. That's not the debate. The debate is we either want the mask or we don't want the mask, or it's about freedom of choice, or government overreach, or whatever the arguments are. Well, those are neat arguments, and when we're in social studies class, I suppose we'll probably have some of those debates. But that can't be the driving factor on the education of the future of our kids. And so, this is my, I've been a superintendent somewhere for 20 years. And this is the first time I've had a piece of an article of clothing that I wish I could just ban. But you can't. But let me clarify what I mean by that. The Supreme Court cases from decades ago tell us that I have the authority to control speech in the school to the extent that speech is significantly disruptive to the educational process. That's the phrase. There has been nothing more significantly disruptive to the educational process right now than the great mask debate. So, I'm making a plan. I presented a plan. We're here tonight for the board to hear your input and ultimately to tell me go or no, change it. And that plan says that masks will be required in the same manner that they were last year. And for those of you that have kids here, you clearly understand that. And if you don't understand it, our last year's plan is still on our website. Go read it because it's very detailed as to when we're going to wear them and when we're not. And in fact, I should clarify that. It doesn't say when you're not. It says when you're not required. Of course, if somebody wants to wear them, they can wear them all the time. And we also did not experience a lot of tension. And I think I see a couple of students in here, and I hope that they'll speak tonight, between students about masks. This has been an adult issue that's impacting the education of our kids. Quite frankly, as a superintendent, all I want to do is stop. It's not the issue that drives it. So, I think this plan is acceptable. It should be acceptable for the state because we're doing the same thing we did last year with masks and we were successful. I hope that it's acceptable to the community. And so we aren't putting any teachers or anybody at risk about you're not following the plans. We're trying to find the solution to a challenging problem. So I won't, unless you would like me to, I won't go through all the details. It's available. There is no other mandate within this plan other than the mask. It says, we obviously have the counselors in play this year, help us with some mental health issues. After we've done certain things that are recommended by the state. But I think the topic of discussion is masks, so I was trying to stick with that. Thank you. That's great.
I was asked to be here tonight from some of your students or parents, and I have been at pretty much every school board meeting for quite a while. I heard something from one of your parents tonight, and I'm going to stick with that. She told me I like things the way they were. And what I'm hearing right now is you're going to make things the way that they were. And so that gives me a place where I don't have a whole lot to say. This is not my fight, but I love these kids. I'm here in protection of your kids and everybody else's. We're in a different place in this country. We're in a different place in this world. And I want to use Earl's previous statement, excuse me, and state that, for what? For what? What if we continue to allow some of this to happen? Or what? What place are we going to be at? And I think that we all have some of that same opinion. And what I'm hearing up front, you've got your idea, you've got your decisions. I can go through a lot of statistics. I've been playing this game for a while, but I honor and appreciate. I see this board, and I know so many of these people, and I know how strong these people are. And I'm honored to be here in front of you guys. So let me make that clear. But let's make sure that we put our kids first. Let's make sure that we give them an opportunity. Putting these masks on our children is creating a problem. We have so many parents that are pulling their kids away. I had a boy in school that asked me time and time again, "Can I please take the mask off? Can we do something different?" I had kids that were not wanting to go to school anymore. And they're done with this stuff. We're all done, a whole bunch of us. And we're all done. We have other opportunities. I pulled my kids because I didn't want them in the school system that wasn't supporting their needs. And that's not the place we want to be. We're here because we love these schools. We're here because we love you guys. This is where we're at. And we need you guys to support and protect our kids. And what I hear from Earl and his board is that that's what we're here to do. And so I'm going to leave it at that tonight. Let's make sure and watch what we're doing. Not let the government just control over top of us. Let's protect our kids first. Thank you.
Here's Pantry and Union County Freedom Alliance. And I actually went to school in Moran for 19 years on the same street, all the way from elementary to college. Most people that go that long to school are called daughters like Mr. Kerr. I didn't get an MBA for be sure. My dad lives in Cove. Jim Bars and my two sisters, Steve and Sissy Bars, went to Cove School, and now my nephew Silas is in school here. I just want you to know that I come here out of the deep respect that you guys have a responsibility on your shoulders, of care and love for our children. My son is 5 years old. He's going to be 6 in the fall, and we're going to be starting him in school. And so what goes on in these schools and what we're requiring of our children, and what freedoms we're allowing our children for their health, what freedoms we're allowing parents to choose what's best for their children is really important to me. These are things you guys have heard a million times, I'm sure, and I have like 3 speeches prepared, but I'll just give a couple of items from this. But I think it's important to note that the highest level of medical evidence is meta-analysis of multiple randomized control trials. And without an exception, all of this level of study that's been done on masks has shown to have no statistical significance when it comes to virus spread, respiratory virus. The CDC is using 72 low-level studies. One of the studies was used with mannequins, and one of those was used with hamsters in cages, with the mask in the hole between the cages. I have the studies that I can hand out to you. I think one thing we have to consider is the fact that the mask wearing on our children is increasing anxiety, panic attacks, depression, shortness of breath, and headaches. Headaches are a signal of damage. They're a signal of oxygen deprivation. When we reduce our inhalation, we breathe our own CO2 and reduce our oxygen, we start damage to the brain. There are neurons in the brain that die very quickly in a low oxygen environment, particularly those in the hippocampus, which plays a major role in learning and memory. We're also seeing facial rashes, facial infection, mouth infection, increased dental problems. And, you know, not to mention the emotional and psychological harm these masks can do to our children. I think it's important, well, I don't know that time here, but one thing, just in closing, I would just say that I do believe there are other options. This idea that masks and vaccines are only options for how to handle this is not quite as far from the truth. So I believe if we had focused on prevention and treatment, aggressive early intervention and treatment that was available to us, I think we'd be in a different position. And boosting our immune system. Basically everything that we're talking about is counter to what we know is good for your health. Isolating, you know. Anyway, I was just gonna say, as far as what you do for your immune system and vitamins, I personally, based on my own research over the last 2 years, I take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day and divide it spread out throughout the day. You might have to work up to that amount. First of all, I'm not a doctor, so this is not meant to be prescriptive. This is what I take based on my own research. And I have some information here that gives vitamin suggestions by age range that I can hand out to you. And maybe this is something we can voluntarily offer to staff and students. There are 0 reported deaths from vitamins every year. So I take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 10,000 international units of vitamin D. Yeah, I'm going to have to just boil last thing is 50 milligrams of zinc. And that is anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 vitamin C and 5,000 and 10,000 vitamin D can really put you in a lot better position. So I just want to thank you for the time to speak to you, and I can give some more data to you in paper. And thank you. Thanks for what you do. Appreciate you. God bless you for all you guys are doing and what you have on your shoulder.
Well, what else we have going on? We're having a really bad flu year. Yeah, normally 40 to 80,000 people die every year from the flu. But the past year, everybody died. You don't even hear people have the flu. That's a good thing about COVID. You hear the flu and hear a lot of other things. But it is serious. It is serious. And these masks I'm really concerned about children. You know, I practiced for 41 years in the Graham and was involved with kids programs, and I'm just really concerned. And the masks are a petri dish for these kids. And the science teacher said, well, you can remember back in your chemistry or science classes. They grow all kinds of bacteria. And what have we heard from Fauci? Don't touch the mask. Don't touch your face. What do kids do? Oh, they're playing with them all the time. If we get a breakout, which we're going to have, there will be a breakout. And if it's in school with asymptomatic children that aren't showing symptoms, you know, these kids are going to be playing and they're going to be doing all their normal kid stuff with their mask. It's not going to help. The virus is 1,000 times smaller than the threads in the face mask. And there's all, I got all kinds of stuff at Stanford, Harvard, that we won't discuss that. That's been discussed a lot. But what we have seen this last year is a spike with children's suicides. And a lot of this has been from anxiety and frustrations of wearing a mask. We also have seen an increase in emergency room visits by over 300% with adolescents that require an emergency room visit, or some type of self-mutilation, attempted suicide, or drug overdoses. You know, we had 94,000 deaths last year from drug overdoses. There's 3,000 abortions a day, but this is okay. But we've got to protect these kids. I don't like seeing the power from Salem controlling rural communities. I really think you should have a choice to do what you feel is best. If this virus is so bad, how come we've allowed at this point about 1.5 million immigrants into the country, of which 20% of them are estimated to be carrying COVID? And what are we doing? We're shipping them all over the country. And we're seeing these spikes. And of course, the spikes are coming from the variances. There's new studies and science coming out on that. These mandates are about control and submission. The mask is one thing, but what's going to be next? It's going to be vaccination. And that's another issue, because that's going to affect Dr. Clean, it's going to affect the son, it's going to affect state employees, it's going to affect the staffs of all treating physicians, whether they want the vaccine or not. I've not talked to Dr. Clean, I don't know his opinion on vaccines. If he chooses to get it, that's wonderful. I'm not going to think anything less of him. He'll still be my dentist. But I want to have the same respect. I don't think we should be forcing this on each other. That's the nice part about living in America. We do have those freedoms. They are taking our freedoms away. The vaccine will be next. What will be the next step? And we have to put a stop to this. We've got to get some type of control somewhere down the line. I guess if we were all sophisticated and highly intelligent, like Obama and his friends, we wouldn't have to worry about it. He has his part. Kids have already lost a year of school. They've lost a year. I'm sorry about that. Got more physical, a little bit. But they've lost a year of school. They've lost a year of sports and extracurricular activities. They're not going to get that back. And what really irritates me, I wasn't even going to talk tonight until, and you know, you're not in this alone either, because, well, you got great sheriff standing up for you. Lynn Finley, Senator Lynn Finley, Representative Mark Owens, Senator Dennis Lifkin, Senator Brian Wilquist, all sent letters to Kate Brown opposing what's going on, because what they want scientific evidence. And they have not come up with it. They can't prove it. And they're opposing this mandate because of the lack of scientific evidence. This is what really upset me when Kate Brown sent this out to stop the reading, writing, and arithmetic for graduation requirements. We are dumbing down our kids. But when I'm worse than that this will help the Black, Latino, Indian, and American groups. If I was a minority, I would be really upset. That to me is about as racist as you can come. I don't want to see our kids dumbed down. I think it's our responsibility to try and educate and improve and clean them up. They're not going to be able to get a job in McDonald's if we keep dumbing them down. So, enough now. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the work you guys are doing. I know you've got a lot of class. I appreciate the teachers. I've had lots of teachers talk to me and say, what do we do? What do we do? And God bless you. God bless our students. God bless America.
Parent came up here and talked because I think that it's grossly misrepresented right now. I am a co-parent. I've got one that is bubbling over to see Mrs. Williams in the flesh in a couple weeks, telling me all about everything she already knows and what we know about the rules in her classroom that are a little different than Miss Sheepy. And then we already know that Miss Wright is very straight-laced. I'm hearing that from my soon-to-be kindergartner. And we've also today outlined all of the rules on the school bus. And you don't turn around. Meg's our neighbor too. By the way, my child was the only one who was forgotten on the bus last year. But she's your neighbor. It's like, but all of that to say, like, my child was literally forgotten on the bus, brought back here, and not for 1 second did I have a fear, a doubt, or a worry that the best interest of my kids was exactly at the center and the heart of Cove School District. I talked to Earl that night, and everything, I mean, I just asked for a school bus sign, and I'm on it, and if you talk to Cove parents, they're thrilled to be in Cove School District because it was comfortable, it was happy, it was safe. My kids came home bubbling over last year because they were in school, they were with their kids. It didn't feel feel uncomfortable. All this stuff they heard from these other school districts, or they're, you know, in town with, frankly, parents talking at each other, not their kids. That's where it was uncomfortable. That's where it was decisive. And as an educator in this district, the most painful things have been the unreported child abuse with kids at home. I worked as a CASA for a while, and it's devastating to know how few case referrals we're getting into DHS right now. That's terrifying. The only time we saw that guy, he's got a hard exterior, but last year we saw him in tears in this board meeting. It had nothing to do with masks. It was because we were facing the option of not having the butts and seats in front of the safest people in this entire community. We are not having that conversation right now, so it floors me that half of the community of Union County that doesn't attend Cove School District is here to argue about masks when our kids are going to show up next Monday in front of Mrs. Williams and in front of Mrs. Wright, and they're going to come back home bubbling over in 70 degrees, not 100 in Florida, and tell me about the school day because it was wonderful. Every minute of the day, they're going to be out on the recess playground. They're going to be hugging and whatever, as much as everybody says they shouldn't, but they're going to be here, they're going to be protected, they're going to be safe, they're going to be learning, and our most at-risk students will be in front of the people who have the capacity to support them in ways that their families can't. So it is only a very privileged place that we can stand in front and argue about one of these stupid things. Because, frankly, there are a lot of kids that this is the last thing on their mind. They will put this on every freaking day. They can come to Mrs. Murchison and be safe. You're on the wrong page. And we teach our kids how to respond to this. And the idea that we would rather not have them in school over this is asinine to me. And feel good that that's what you can care about. Feel good. Feel good you had dinner before this meeting so you could come complain about this. Because there's a lot of kids that would trade that in a heartbeat. And this is not our fight right now, my friends. If this is your fight, go to the other side of the state and talk to them. This community is not where that is. These teachers do not deserve to be on the sphere for that because of your stance. And that went way farther beyond what I had intended to talk about.
I'm in kindergarten next year. I got an 8-month-old son. We'll most likely keep him in kindergarten here. And I'm very excited. The other day we were at the Mammoth grounds in the Grand. They had a fair going on. I asked my daughter, would you like to go to the fair? 5 years old. Absolutely not. Why? What kid doesn't want to go play on the bouncy house, go on the ride, the slide? There's COVID. The last 18 months of my daughter's life, we couldn't go to parks, couldn't go to stores, couldn't eat in restaurants. I couldn't take her on our daddy-daughter dates that I did every Friday for 5 years because of fear of COVID. One thing I've always taught my daughter is doing the right thing when nobody's watching. Integrity. The dumbest verse of integrity you'll ever hear. So who are we to do the wrong thing for our children when Colony King, our governor, is bringing them down our necks? The whole state is watching. And we're going to just cower down and roll over. We're teaching our generation of kids to roll over, to be pansy, to not stand up for what they think is right. So who are we as parents, as teachers, supervisors, peers, coaches, neighbors, and friends to tell our kids to roll over? It's okay. If it ain't right to you, that's okay. That's what government says. I want my kid to attend this school. I want my kid to build relationships. I want my kid to be healthy, smart, friendly, and strong. But the most important thing to me is standing up for what you believe is right. No matter the adversary. If I had somebody tell me, admit God ain't real, or I'm going to kill you. God's real. Shoot me. Masks don't work. Fire me. Because I will stand up for what is right, no matter the situation. And that's what we need to teach our kids. That's all I got.
I'm a little biased, my husband's sitting up there, but we chose to move to Cove when we moved here 3 years ago. It was a choice. We both, my husband works in the grant. I'm a 15-year educator. I teach high school, and I also teach at the university in our teaching program up there. So guide and guide out our teachers. I think that it's important for us to think that just because the board here is fighting the way that you would like them to fight, does not mean that they're not fighting at all. So they are standing up. It just doesn't look maybe the way that you would do it, because they have their own parameters and there's a process that they have to go through. But I can tell you, as a wife of a board member, that they are looking into things. Unfortunately, our governor put forth this order at the end of July. There was not much time for our board to seek legal counsel, to investigate and figure out exactly what they can do to protect not only our children, but our educators that are here. I've worked in a variety of different districts with a variety of teachers, and I can tell you that Cove has some of the very best teachers that I have ever seen, that I've ever worked with, and I trust my kids here wholeheartedly. And so I think that we really do need to know that this board here would not be sitting here, would not be volunteering their time. This is not a paid position for them, right? To do what's best for our kids. One of the things I want to address to the board is consequences if students don't wear masks. I think that last year things were handled in a very trauma-informed approach, and I would like to be sure and encourage that the board continues to use trauma-informed, non-punitive means of behavior modification for students. I want to make sure that all students feel safe, whether they choose to wear a mask or they choose not to wear a mask to school, that there's no bullying or harassment from students or from staff. And so really consider what that looks like as far as reminders to students. At what point does it order harassment for our kids? And I truly am so grateful for each of you, not just my husband who sits there, our administrators, for the amazing teachers that we have here. And I know that my kids are really looking forward to coming back to school here. My daughter has anxiety, and this is one of the places where she feels very safe. And we've seen some decrease in her anxiety since we've been here. So, and that's to her amazing teachers that she's had. So thank you guys.
I teach second grade here at Cove, and I also have two children. One will be an 8th grader this year, and one will be in 10th grade. We want to be in school, and last year everything went well by following the plan that the board and Mr. Pettit put in place. As far as working with kids in my classroom, I talked about the mask, I talked about why we wear them. It was the first time in my 19-year career that I didn't get sick during the school year with a cold. So that's just the lived experience that I had, and my own experience, and my children didn't have colds last year. So for us, the masks were working. We would prefer not to wear them, but we understand the need to keep our community safe and the need to do it to be in school. So my boys are ready to come. I tried to get them both to come and speak to you about how they felt about it, and they said they'll do whatever they need to do so they can be in school. So thank you for the plan, and we will follow suit.
I'm Brittany Hersom, and I have been a screener at the door. And I say, "Good morning, student," and I'm wearing my mask because that's what I'm supposed to do. Not that I want to wear a mask because I kind of hate it, and it like gives me teenage acne. And I don't like it, but I love kids, and I don't want to go back to making plywood, so I put it on, and then I'm like, "Ooh, take it off." And then I go around Walmart and I take people off because I don't comply, and then maybe I'll get escorted out of mine. I wear it here because I want to be here with kids. I don't think we should be wearing it. I have a 4-year-old that's going to preschool who says V for B. And I think like this, that's making sense. So I want the masks off. Yes, indeed. It's a choice, and I want people who maybe aren't in our school every single day like us to know we don't want to be wearing it when we're wearing it. Sometimes you gotta like it. on the gray line just to like get what you want for the minute until it's safe to go like, right? So, I want you to know that I harass your children or your coming children in the morning, and the children can say, no thanks, Miss Britt. I say, awesome, have a great day. We're not going to harass kids. Do I have to keep them out this year? Same as last year? Okay, I will say, good morning, Mr. Miles, would you like a mask? And you say, no thanks. And I'm like, cool, have a good day. And I say, good morning, would you like some hand sanitizer? And you're like, my hands are blistered from that. And I'm like, cool, have a good day. And then we all go to school, and we have a super awesome time. And maybe go bees, coming with the bees someday for my coming kindergartner, and he doesn't say, I'm bleeding. Which, yeah, things are going to get resolved. But right now, right in this moment, thank freaking God I still have a job. Right? And thank freaking goodness that our kids can come to school. And they can say no to me. And I'll just come and have a great day.
Just like you said, this is probably the best school board meeting that I've been to. And I've gone to all of them since they started having them. It's the most well thought out plan that I've heard from any superintendent thus far. I'm greatly impressed with what you guys do. And the only thing I have to say is this is Timothy 1:7. For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. The sound mind means equals discernment, wisdom, understanding, and not succumbing to lies or tyranny. Thanks for what you do, and this is honestly, in Jesus Christ's name here, the best school board meeting that I have been to. Thank you.
I'm an educator in Grand, but I also have 2 children here at Cove School District. And I really just wanted to get up and speak and express my gratitude and my thanks to the school board and to educators. And because last school year it was wonderful for my kids. They got to go to school, and my daughter, who is socially anxious, she had an amazing year. And Mrs. Williams got her to stand up and give her biography speech, which she would never do before. And all of those amazing things happened last year, and where I worked, it was, on again, off again school. And so I'm thankful that my kids got to go to school last year. And if this coming school year is just like it was last year, I would be so happy. And I just want to thank all of you, so thank you.
Student who required me to do some mandatory reporting because of depression issues. I don't think that if we had not been in school, able to have that rapport with our students, able to have those connections between each other, that those kids would have been looking out for each other, and they would have felt comfortable that I would then do what needed to be done. And I get it. I don't like the masks. In fact, if you know me personally, you know which side of the fence I sit on. But if it means that we have one kid lost, because you want to talk about standing up and doing what you believe in, I believe in keeping kids safe. And I can't keep them safe if I can't see them, if I can't talk to them, if I can't interact with them. What I believe in, kids need to be in school, period. Bubble wrap them, put a mask on them, whatever. I get it. I don't like it. I don't like bowing down to government policy. But what I believe strongly is that the kids are better off here in the classroom. That's it.
Kids, Portland kids, Tri-Cities kids, all my friends back home that I went to high school with, their kids didn't get their first day of school until like after spring break. While my kids started end of May, and they went the whole school year. As Mr. Pettit said, we never had a lost day. No class got shut down. It was a success. And I do feel some of that's in jeopardy with what is being pushed through. It's making it harder to operate. And I'm so guys and the teachers. I just want to repeat it last year, and it seems like the new restrictions coming out are making it more difficult. So I'm really happy to hear that that's the plan, and hopefully it'll get approved. I don't like the masks. I don't want my kids wearing masks. They comply. I mean, as far as I know, all their teachers were here from last year. They stuck it out. They wore it. I had one in speech therapy last year. So not masking, learning that development of sounds and whatnot, not being a mask is super important. But some of the words I'm hearing, I work in customer service, I'm with the public all day. And we did have several months from May to recently where masks weren't allowed. And people would come into the store, do I have to wear it? And it was so disheartening hearing people wear a mask, not because they agreed with it or whatnot, they were afraid that their lack of wearing a mask would be construed as being disrespectful to the people around them. That's wrong. We're changing the social structure by not being able to properly communicate with each other, not being able to smile. Even in the letter that the governor put out today, she put, wearing a mask is an act of kindness. It's not an act of kindness. If it is a medical requirement, it's a medical requirement. It's not an act of kindness. Seeing someone smile, being able to talk to somebody in a friendly manner, making a personal connection, that's an act of kindness. That's just it. But I'm really thankful for you, all the teachers here. It was a great year last year, and I'm really excited to go back on Monday.
Board, any discussion amongst us about what you've heard or thoughts that you'd like to share?
I've lost quite a bit of sleep over this. I didn't know what to do, what was the right thing to do. When you run for the school board, you don't run with an R or a D in front of your name. And unfortunately, people want to have a discussion about masks, and we should be having a discussion about our kids. A year ago, we decided to go our own way. We're going back to school no matter what. We took our stand, but it wasn't political. The stand was to put our kids back in the classroom. And as a group, we were willing, Mr. Pettit was willing to risk his career. I think several of the board members felt we were putting our businesses on the line. We were willing to do that to put the kids back in the classroom. To take a stand now to make a political statement, to undo what we did last year, taints it. This is a no-brainer decision. I don't like it. I don't like masks. I don't want to wear them. But to take some kind of stand that says we're not going to wear a mask and risk not keeping our kids in school, I mean, in my mind, we undo everything we did a year ago. And I know there's people that want, and everybody wants to say you got to make a stand. You know, make a stand with your own business. Make a stand where you're the one that's making the decisions for yourself. You know, don't ask us to risk our kids to make a stand. Don't ask, don't be disappointed that we're unwilling to ask the staff, the administration, the teachers to put not their job, their careers. You're not asking them to put their job on the line, you're asking them to put their career on the line. The most important thing is to get the kids back in the classroom. And I called a half a dozen teachers and I wanted to know what they thought. In different ways, they all said the same thing. The kids got to be in class. That's all that matters. That's what matters. The kids have got to be in the room. And they all had different reasons why they thought, not different reasons, but they all emphasized different reasons why that was so important. But at the end of the day, that's what matters. And so for that reason, I fully support the plan that was put forward, and I trust him and the rest of the people in the Cove community to implement it correctly and do the best job they can for our kids. I think we need to recognize at some point during the year, that may mean really cracking down on masks and enforcing the rules. I mean, if we have an outbreak and the numbers start to rise, we got to trust these people to do what's right. And so that may mean, hey, you know, we're serious. You got to wear them. We're going to really crack down because the idea is to keep the kids in school every day.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, can I ask a clarifying question? What exactly are the consequences if a child does not wear a mask?
Yeah, Mr. Pat will have to address that.
If they refuse to wear a mask, the same as last year.
Which is excessive.
There's no community consequence. You're offered a mask. If you refuse, there's no pressure, no discussion. Now, fortunately, we were able to function last year without any problem, so to speak, because we had a percentage, 5 or 10% of our kids that we refused to wear masks. We know that in mitigating risk, when that you is refusing to, that you're not significantly changing the outcome of mitigating risk. And so it was a non-issue. And a much larger issue, we would have had to come back together and come up with a different idea how we're going to get this done. But we were fortunate in that most kids will comply when they're asked to. But the other thing I was quite proud of related to that is, and there are students, I keep seeing them coming now, and feel free to tell me if I'm wrong, but I did not see the pressure between the kids about mask, no mask, any of that stuff going on. It just wasn't happening. There might have been a couple of conversations from time to time where somebody asked, hey, how are you? And then with a teacher, the teacher explains to them, okay. But there's no punitive. It's not like, oh, you're not wearing a mask as a principal. Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Thank you for clarifying, because that's not my grandstand, so I just wanted to clarify.
I would say that there's certain circumstances, and I think you heard from some of the speakers tonight, that there will be circumstances that I have to take a look at and consider whether or not the reason of not wearing a mask is because of a perceived disability. It could be a bipolar, for example. And there are some that could be that you may have a high level of anxiety when you come to face, you have an outbreak in your face, you have, okay, we're going to make a accommodation plan for it anyway. So I'm going to tell you, you probably shouldn't be wearing a mask. Because the education, the right to the education, and we're in school, and the right to protect against discrimination with disability, or any of those kind of things, far outweighs any directive we got.
Could I also ask a question? We're brand new to the school district, and so I didn't know about the policy, or that I was supposed to read it before we came. So can somebody just tell me if they have to wear them while they're at their desks?
The best way to attempt to answer that question is to refer you to last year's plan. And so if you look on our website, it's still there. It describes when students are supposed to wear them. I can say this, do they always have to wear them when they're sitting at their desk? No.
No?
No.
Okay.
But there will be times that they do. But the teacher was very good at it. We mastered this last year, and it became a non-issue. So the idea that kids are going to show up in the morning and put a mask on and never take it off, except when they're, holding it down, put something around for lunch, that's false. That's not the way it actually works.
I just didn't know how it works, so I was going to ask. And I'm sure you guys probably know all this stuff, but just in case. My kids went to a small school last year, and they didn't have to wear their masks at their desks because it was part of the school plan, because they bought these little flimsy plastic shields that do not cost very much, and so that was part of their plan, that they had these little flimsy plastic cubicle things that went on their desks. They're totally clear, and I believe that we have COVID money that could buy those for every desk if it saved them from having to wear their masks at their desk. It's just my
We're going to continue the board discussion, and we were
So like John said, we obviously have a lot of sleepless nights, we've all talked about this a lot, what are we gonna do, how are we gonna do it? Cove is lucky, fortunate, well, whatever we have going, we're lucky that we have the teachers that we have, the staff that we have, and the leadership that we have, period. And it allows us to be successful in the ways that we have been. Mr. Pettit set out a plan, the plan worked last year, and if you talk to the teachers, you talk to the parents. I have 4 kids in the school district, live down the road. Last year was a success. Our kids were in school every day, all day, with minimal, we had safety protocols in place, they were minimally invasive. My kids didn't talk once about the mask or this or that. They didn't know. They were just going to school. So it was a success, and I get local control, I get the passion. Trust me, I do. And I don't know how it sits with me that so many people showed up from out of district to tell us what they wanted for kids in our district. I get where you're coming from. I appreciate you being here. I really do. And it's hard when it's your turn to speak because it is a passionate topic. It's important to us. But we've got it. We did well last year. And I trust, just like John said, I trust Mr. Pettit and the district to make decisions. If we need to adjust our course, they'll do it. We have the best teachers in the valley. And I know they just want to be in school and they'll do what it takes. But the majority that I've talked to, like John, they don't feel like masks are the greatest thing, especially kids with speech impediments or those kinds of things. They can't teach effectively with masks. So the plan we have in place that we have seen through, we've seen it work, I feel like it meets everyone's needs. So I don't think it needs to be an argument. It is what it is, and we'll see it through. I think COVID is a serious risk in the community. It would be irresponsible to not take some kind of measures to do what we can to reduce the spread. I don't think schools have the sorts of spread. That's a whole other avenue that we don't need to go down because Mr. Pettit has a plan, and I think that's going to be what works for COVID again this year.
So I totally was the one that jumped on Friday, that bandwagon. I never take anything serious until I get the email from Earl. Earl says, we're not supposed to mask back on this year. I jumped on the bandwagon when I emailed them and I was not happy because of the mask. And I was like, I'm on the cliff, I just jumped. And I went, probably the biggest email I've ever sent Earl, and it still only went that long. And then since then, it's been about a week. Every morning at 2:30 I wake up, and everything goes in my mind, and it turns, and I don't know what the right thing is, and all I want to do, like all of us, is the right thing. And we're up against the wall. What is the right thing? Do I stand up and draw that line in the sand and show my kids how strong Mom is because she didn't back down, she didn't roll over? I don't want to put our administration against that. I don't want to put our staff against that. Our school can't afford that financially because I guarantee the woman putting this on our district, she's going to crack down on us. She's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to give you a pass. No, she's going to come after us because she's going to make a point. We can't put our district in that position over a mask. And it is a mask. And I believe it is a freedom. And it comes down to our freedom of choice. I truly do believe that. But I also believe that we're not just rolling over. I believe that we're still, as a board, we're going to stay strong and we're going to do the best that we can for our kids. And we're going to take the mask off as soon as we can because Earl is always looking for the next best step for us. He truly looks after what's best for our district, and I have to keep telling myself that. Because to this day, in my mind, are my kids going to school one day? What am I going to do with my kids? What I can't do is I can't protect the community's kids. I can protect my kids. And there's so many kids that need to come to school for that protection, just like Mrs. had said. I can't protect them. I can choose what I think is right for my kids. I think I can't give my kids the best education or what they would get here, but I can provide them an education. There's a lot of people that if we put our foot down and we cause our school to get shut down, that's not helping our kids. And like John said, we all stood our ground last year and said our kids are going back to school. So if we stand our ground on this topic, what did we do that for last year? So I I mean, figure it out beside the fence along right now. But right now, we can still fight this fight, but we can still get these kids back to school Monday in the process. And that's what we have to concentrate on. What's best for the community's kids, not my kids, or John's kids, or Jamie's kids, everybody's kids.
I have a question, please. How often last year did a state health representative show up to make sure you guys are abiding by the mandates? And do you expect that frequency to increase this year?
We had, there's a fellow by the name of Cove, who's the big cheese of the week. It's pretty unusual when the superintendent is getting telephone calls and visits directly from Cove Gill. So they were breathing down on that early last year. We were compliant. I asked the staff, we need to raise our level of compliance. Here they come. We raised it. They came. They faded. Nobody's looking at us anymore because everybody was looking at us last year because of the action that the school board took, which I supported, I recommended. And this year, that's going to hopefully different. We start figuring what everybody's looking at us. And then we can actually be about educating the kids instead of about a political debate about adults.
Good question. Chris? Sure, yeah. So being kind of new to the school board, there's some of the things coming in that I wasn't a part of last year. But seeing the plan that was made and the success that was there, I was all for it. That's fantastic. This year, obviously, different situation, having some pretty heavy-handed punishment that could happen. And I think that looking at our plan that was already made checks those boxes. That's all that we need to do, check the boxes. That protects our teachers, that protects our administration, it protects our kids. And look at it for the long run. Hopefully, as the governor has stated in her thing, that they'll revisit it every month. It drops off, they'll revisit it. And hopefully, things will change and we can adapt to that. But we can adapt to some of the heavy penalties that come up across with this. This could affect our ability to teach our kids and provide a good environment for years, potentially, if they truly come down heavy-handed. And that's a terrible risk to put out to a community, a small community. Maybe a bigger school district can afford to take some of those hits. We can't lose teachers. We can't lose some of the funding that's going to come and affect the future years. And so I'm happy that we have this plan that checks those boxes. We can say, yep, we're abiding by your law, your rule, and we will hopefully skate right through what we've been doing. I think that, to me, is the biggest, just being able to get by until it goes away. And that hopefully will go away a lot faster than if we get struck down some of those penalties for our staff, our administration. So that's my 2 cents, and hopefully, we can get through this, and I'm sure we will. We have a strong community and the school.
Deborah Hanson, had kids, grandkids in the school district, lived here for over 30 years. I would like to address you first off as this board sat here last year and asked Mr. Pettit, they were going to go back to school. He could have lost his job and he told the board, you tell me what to do, I will follow suit, and that's what he did. So we have an outstanding. The other thing I have to say, and I guess I don't get it, is They're talking about licensures on the teachers, they're talking about taking this and taking that. But if we all took a stance, she can't take all of Oregon down if we all stood up together and said, we're not doing this, we're gonna go back to school, we cannot take our teachers away. Even if she pulls licenses, is she gonna come up here then and arrest every teacher? I mean, if 90% of Oregon stood up and said, we're not doing this all at once, there wouldn't be a damn thing that woman could do. That's where I think we need to get to, is enough people to push the fact that she can't do it.
The issues are bigger than what has been discussed, and they're much more wide-sweeping. And we can say her, and I heard the governor, okay, well, maybe I'm not a grand too, but there's two issues that are looking like they're gaining traction and likely to be legislative issues, actual laws. One of them I am very against, and that is that they want to make a law that says that superintendents are protected if they don't follow the board, but you follow the law. I think that's wrong. Superintendents work for the local school district. But here's a bigger one. That is, if you don't follow the mandates of the OEE and the laws, that the state is trying to figure out how to have authority to take control of your school. This is about a local control issue. It's a much bigger issue than just about masks. And so when we're talking about the lobbying efforts of the county, this is what it's about. It still boils back down to local control. And you see we are to clarify that it's not just about license fees and things like that.
And I guess I piggyback on that. The opportunity to have this many adults in the room, it cannot be lost that this conversation needs to happen about local control. It is my perceived view from what I've heard tonight that we're not going to allow kids to be a pawn on that board to fight that fight that we as adults need to be taking up, because that is exactly what's happening. Centralized government is the aim there, and removing independent decision making is one decision to do that. And this is a great venue, education, and you're going to watch it happen in healthcare as well. You can probably go down the line in any other industry as well. It's why it's happening right before your eyes. And I know you're here tonight, so you're obviously aware. But we need to continue to make sure that those that aren't here are aware of that as well. All right, well, having had ample time for discussion.
I move that we accept or adopt. I guess I move that we adopt the state return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan as presented tonight.
Hearing a motion and a second, simple time for discussion having been allowed, the board will take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.